Historic fiction. What is it? Historic fiction is and always will be a fictitious story, fantasy or otherwise, that revolves around historic events at some given time. It is a very daunting task for creators because there really has to be an emphasis on historical accuracy. Reason that must be the case for historical accuracy is because if a historic fiction, and this is especially true for fantasy, historic fantasy fiction, if something's not historically accurate, it will pull the reader, the viewer, out of the story. So, for example, it wouldn't make sense to have a King Arthurian tale told with lasers or space fields, force fields, or cars in 500, 600 AD. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason for something like that to be there. That can be it can be very daunting because it takes an incredible amount of research to make sure that it's done well, and especially during that time field of medieval fantasy, especially during that time field of King Arthur, there's very few movies, very few books that have actually done it right and done it well. The only one that I can think of that's actually done it well is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, keeping in sight of the historical accuracies of what was going on at the time, the social accuracies of what likely would have been happening at the time, as well as just the general story of King Arthur with the Tale of Guinevere, the Knights of the Round Table, etc. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because Cursed had just come out. I have not finished it just yet. I have gone through 5 episodes so far, and it's 5 episodes in. I am not going to do a full review on this just yet, but what I will mention is that I went in with it with low expectations. I didn't realize that my expectations needed to be any lower, but they did, and I'll just go more into detail on that once I finish it, a little bit of a later time. Again, this is Ar-Feinial, and the reason why I am putting this video up is just to explain in more detail what it is that I'm going to go into for my review for Cursed. And with that being said, I do look forward to making that video, making sure that makes sense, as well as some of the other creative things that I personally would have done for what it was that they were trying to do. All right, and again, this is Ar-Feinial, and that has been your brief snippet on the importance of historic fiction and historic accuracy when writing that fiction, and this will be good to be digestible for both authors and creators, as well as viewers, in case you're not fully aware. And just as a side note, since Cursed is taking place around the historicity of King Arthur and his legend. And King Arthurian fantasy. Arthurian fantasy is a thing, and it's lumped with historic fantasy and historic fiction, partially because there is enough evidence to support the existence of King Arthur, but there's also evidence to support that he didn't exist. So, and just with that being said, scholars of King Arthur cannot agree if he was real or not, or if he was just a fictitious story, or if his tale revolved around someone else who may have existed around that time period, as most of the documentation for King Arthur happens roughly 500 years afterwards. All right. And again, thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your evening.